Hello and welcome to Tabletop Odyssey. My name is Jay, and today I want to talk about how miniature wargaming as a whole becomes mainstream, and why I think that there needs to be a breakdown of the entry barriers before this happens. Now, what do I mean by mainstream? Because, you know, it's not going to become as big as football or soccer for you Americans. I think we can all appreciate that's not going to happen. But I do think that the rise of D&D lately in all different kinds of media, you're seeing like famous people play it, be on TV talking about it, all that kind of stuff. We had Stranger Things. I think there's enough evidence out there to say that D&D is becoming more and more accepted. Like TV shows are including it as part of it. Like our Community had a big section on it. Well, that was a few years back actually, but it's still geeky and nerdy, and people still perceive it as that, no doubt. But it's becoming a lot less like you're unlikely to get completely funny looks. You're just likely to be like put into the category of geek. But I think the whole concept of geek and nerd culture is on the rise anyway. That's been trending towards that for quite a while. And yes, it's not exactly going to become football, but D&D it's you know, most people know about it these days, have at least a basic understanding of it, and may even know somebody who plays. Now, wargaming is not in that camp. Wargaming is still you paint little men. What? Why would you do that? It's in that kind of like little category of people being like, yeah, sure. Although I think that's diminishing, obviously, as nerd, I always called it GERD, nerd and geek culture, so it becomes more prevalent. That issue slightly diminishes anyway. But I think there is obviously a disparity between D&D and wargaming, and I personally think the main reasons for that is probably the barriers to entry. I think there's actually some reasons to prefer wargaming over D&D. I know people like the imagination of D&D, but I think wargaming has like a decent side of competitiveness. It's got more like tools to it. You can either paint, strategy, tactics, all that kind of stuff. I'm not slagging off D&D, but D&D doesn't really have some of that. There's reasons to like D&D, don't get me wrong. As I said, the imagination part of it, you don't really need that much to play it in a basic sense. Like you probably need one guy who's got the book, maybe the GM, and maybe they'll allow you to use that to make your character, and then you can essentially just go from there. And I think that's really part of the reasons why D&D has taken off over Twitch, over mini wargaming. I was thinking about Twitch. I think because you don't need that much to actually play it, you can just pick it up and play. And I have mentioned before how I think like Twitch has really enabled D&D, whereas Twitch has not done the same kind of thing for mini wargaming because of the difficulties in playing it and representing it and all that kind of stuff. And that's really the basic part of this video. The barriers to entry to mini wargaming are far different and more difficult than, say, D&D. D&D, you just generally, as I said, one guy with a book, piece of paper, you all sit around a table, have a good time, ha 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 ha, lols. Mini wargaming, got a few issues. Like I've done a couple of basic buyer's guides for Star Wars Legion and Kill Team, and no matter which way you swing it, you can't just buy your models and play generally. You can if you play something like X-Wing, but we'll get to that. You know, generally you need to buy the models on the sprue, clip them off the sprue, glue them together with the specific right kind of glue, scrape off the mold lines, do a spray of base to paint them, to prime them. Then you're going to base them in the base colours and give them a wash and then maybe a highlight. And then finally, you're probably going to put them on a decent base with sand and PVA and brown paint and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, you need to have probably a shed ton of models to play if you're playing like a 40k game or something like that. And by that point, most people are like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I think like in society as a whole, culture as a whole is rewarding I want to say easiness, but I can't think of a good way to say it, but like video games and films and all that kind of stuff, they make them more appealing to a mass market, don't they? They're not hard to generally pick up and play. Like you can look at an RPG game from, let's look at Fallout, an RPG game from like Fallout 1 and 2, a shed ton of options, Fallout 3, 4, you know, broken down into just like you press a button and he says like one sentence, he or she says like one sentence. So boiling things down into easier components and easier to understand and playing and pick up and that kind of thing has been trending. And I think like X-Wing really was the you know, it was the thing that showed this could work in mini wargaming. X-Wing, for those of you who don't know, it's pre-painted ships, and all you really need to do is make your list, take it and fly it. And the board, it's a smaller space, so it's got quite a few advantages in the ease of use kind of thing. The barriers are a lot smaller than say 40k. Even like at a tournament level, the barriers are quite a lot smaller. And X-Wing really became a rival to 40k over the last like 8 years or whenever it was released, and it's still going strong now. And those two games of 40k and X-Wing are pretty much like right up there at the top. And I think I'm pretty convinced that that was because of the barrier to entry being quite low. Now, I'm not saying do away with the hobby side of things. Some people absolutely love and, you know, completely adore the hobby side of things, whether that be kit bashing, the painting, modelling the terrain and the bases and all that kind of thing. That in itself is quite a reason a lot of people enjoy the hobby. So X-Wing in that case isn't for that person. And yeah, I said I completely understand that myself. I like doing a bit of terrain, all that kind of jazz. So I do think there are reasons to have that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people like wargaming because it gets them away from like a computer. It gets them out and about of the house. They want to paint the models because it gets them away from a screen. They want to go and play the game because it gets them away from a screen. And it feels like you're actually participating in something instead of maybe watching football where you're just, you know, literally an audience member. You're not participating yourself. So, but I don't think getting away from the screen, like X-Wing still gets you away from the screen if you go and play it in person. So I think a game that had like pre-painted miniatures could come out that really catapults it to the mainstream. Now, where would this game come from? And the answer to that is probably Fantasy Flight Games or for Games Workshop. Now, I think that Games Workshop probably won't be the people to do it, because I think the game that would really like, you know, be the flagship game that really can like catapults it into like I say mainstream, I mean D&D kind of levels, would probably be a pre-painted game. Something like, I say something like X-Wing. X-Wing already came very like close to, you know, it's in like is it Control Delete the comics and all that kind of stuff. But I think we're looking for that killer app basically. And I think Games Workshop are the people who probably could do it the easiest. Like Kill Team shows the trend of games sort of like boiling down into breaking those barriers to entry. You don't need a full army, you only need 5 to 20 models, something like that. Kill Team is an indication of where the trend has been going over the last few years. Quite a few skirmish games have come out, X-Wing and all that kind of stuff, and even Legion has quite a lot less models in it than say 40k. That's been the trend, and I think it's waiting probably for a pre-painted miniature game that has like people, because people love people, probably a pre-painted miniature game that's a skirmish game where the miniatures look good, the IP is iconic or classic. It's probably a skirmish game, so there's not that many, it's not that expensive, and the games probably take 30 minutes, right? I think if somebody hits all of those criterias, you have the chance of just like an avalanche of popularity. It may not be like instant, but we need something like that people can easily get into without spending a shed ton of money, a shed ton of time, and it needs to probably be a good IP, because, you know, we need to get away from the like incredibly nerdy geeky side of things if we're going to hit a bigger audience. Now obviously D&D is still nerdy and geeky, I'm not trying to say that it's not. Oh, no offense to them, or I've played it myself and still enjoy it, but it seems unlikely that wargaming is going to hit that level just on its own as it is now. Now, I could be completely wrong. Maybe the audience will just grow and it'll get more and more popular. But I think like you can see like the biggest YouTube channels like Tabletop Minions, Mini Wargaming, Beasts of War. When you compare them to even like board games and D&D channels, they don't. Well, then it doesn't. It seems like wargaming is the third of the three. Is what I'm trying to say. You've got like board gaming, D&D, and then like wargaming. And I think it's because of the whole purpose of this video, these barriers to entry. And I think maybe a game like from Games Workshop, it'd be weird because if they did 40k, it'd be a bit janky. But you know, they've bought the Lord of the Rings IP, so they could possibly get easily get something else. I have mentioned before, I wish FFG would maybe go after the Marvel license. If they did pre-painted like miniatures from the Marvel license, and the game took about 30 minutes. I'm aware that I keep forgetting the people who make the Harry Potter game and the DC game. Night models. Yeah, I think that's it. If they have that, but if a company like FFG get it and it became super promoted, something like that could really change the dynamic of the industry. I hope it happens. I'm not too bothered if it doesn't, because I still enjoy X-Wing, Kill Team, Legion, all that kind of stuff. But it would be nice to see the industry grow. I think it probably is growing, but it would be nice to see it grow further and more, better and quicker and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that's the proposition here. If we sum it down, is that I think mini wargaming is not as popular as D&D and board gaming, and I think that is because of the barriers to entry. Do you agree or disagree? I think is the statement there. And if that is the case, how do you foresee maybe those barriers to entry getting broken down? Kill Team is an example, possibly, where you can see the sands are shifting already. So yeah, let me know that. Thank you to anybody who is currently supporting me on Patreon. That really does help. If you want to support me there, please go ahead and do so. I really appreciate that. If you're not already subscribed, then please go ahead and subscribe. And you can like the video if you like the video. If not, that's fine. Let me know why. Have a beautiful day, and goodbye. Bye.